Good morning, everyone. It is Sunday, February 15th, 2026. This is Truth News. I am Walter Bass, and we have covered the intelligence agencies trafficking. We have covered the military trafficking. We have covered Hollywood trafficking. We have covered our government trafficking. We have covered CPS trafficking, TPUSA trafficking, churches trafficking. Today, we're going to cover the music industry. That's right. It just never ends with the human slavery and bondage in the United States of America on every level, from churches to Hollywood to pedophile hill. It's deplorable, it's vile, it's disgusting, it's barbaric, and they all do it using media, propaganda, and just the kabuki theater show, as I call it, putting on the fakest production, fake and gay, as Candace Owens says, trying to convince you that they own reality and what they say on camera is reality, and they will just keep pushing this fake reality until everyone accepts it. And we're actually going to cover two topics today because I just finished watching Coach Collins, and there was a very good analysis of Erica Kirk and her being a psychopath. And we're going to try to touch on that if I got time. How dangerous it is to have a psychopath running free in society, because what they'll do is infect weaker minded people and convert them to their psychopathy, their way of thinking, like a Charlie Manson, like a Waco, David Koresh. These people who are psychopaths prey on the weak and vulnerable and slowly and methodically brainwash them into their way of thinking. That's how we've gotten to this point in the United States of America, is because we have a collective group of legitimate clinical psychopaths preying on the mentally weak and the mentally feeble and converting them, brainwashing them, conditioning them to accept that their psychopathy is normal and acceptable and that everyone should become a psychopath like them. And it's dangerous, very, very dangerous. So we're going to start in the music industry with Sony Records and Tommy Mottola. This guy has been all over the news. He was married to Mariah Carey. He was very cruel and controlling and abusive to Mariah Carey. And that's what these psychopaths do. They look at human beings as property, as just a means to an end. Their marriages are all shams, whether it's Donald Trump and Ivana Trump, whether it's Tommy Mottola, Mariah Carey, whether it's Ike and Tina Turner. These psychopaths legitimately look at human beings as just property and profits, and that's it. And they use and abuse them and then throw them away when they're done with them. And we're going to cover Michael Jackson because I did a lot of research on this last night. I spent about probably 2 or 3 hours looking at different things online, looking at different things on YouTube, doing research. And Michael Jackson actually was very intelligent, and I think when it comes to the music industry, and I think it's because he spent his whole life in the music industry from a child. He was like 7 or 8 years old when the Jackson 5 began, and he stayed in the music industry his whole life. So over the years, I think he quietly watched and observed how to operate and how these people operated, and I think he outsmarted them, and they punished him for it. And we're going to get to that. But, there's a lot of artists, and this has been going on in the music industry from Johnny Cash to Elvis Presley to Prince, Mariah Carey. And just so you know, Tommy Mottola is in the e-files. He emailed the Island Boy himself. So you see how this group just keeps intermingling together. They're all interconnected. The cabal, if they will. So Michael Jackson in the 80s, just after the Thriller album, which Thriller was one of the biggest selling albums ever. I can't confirm this. I'd have to do some more research, but I think Thriller actually sold more copies than some of the Beatles albums. So Michael Jackson in the 80s, after spending years in the music industry, realized that the power wasn't in making music. The power wasn't in producing music. The power was in owning your own music, having the rights to your catalog. That's where the power and the money is. So in the early 80s, Michael Jackson took rights to all of his music. Everything he made and produced, he owned. It was his. And he had his own record label. I believe it was ATP Records. And they ended up merging with Sony Records. And he retained the rights to his own music. He also, in the 80s, purchased the Beatles catalog, which means he owned rights to the Beatles music. So anytime someone wanted to use the Beatles music, they had to pay Michael Jackson for it. Anytime someone wanted Michael Jackson's music, they had to pay Michael Jackson for it. See, usually with these record labels and what they do is they're kind of like pimps. They pimp people out and they get all the money and the other people do all the work. It's basically a pimp type relationship. And when the music's used, the record label makes the money, whether it's royalties on radio play, whether it's movie play, whether it's commercial ads, Super Bowl, whatever the case may be. Anytime someone wants to use a song and the artist does not own the rights to their music, the music label gets the money from it. The artist just gets a few pennies on the dollar, if you will, if they even get that. And that's why Taylor Swift, what she did, she played a pretty smart role too. She didn't own the rights to any of her music, and she made, I don't know, 4 or 5 albums before she realized she was being pimped, she was being played. So what she did was remake all of her music that she had originally made. She remade it and retained the rights to the new versions of it, while the original record company had the rights to the old version of it. So she just redid all of her stuff and retained the rights to her own music. So Taylor Swift, kudos to her for exposing this record industry and taking control of her. I'm not a big Taylor Swift fan. I don't like her image. I don't like her persona. I don't like how she has so much influence over the young people of our society, and she doesn't use it properly in a positive sort of way. She kind of manipulates the youth for her personal gain. I don't agree with that, and I don't like that. So Michael Jackson, let's be clear, he was intentionally murdered, just like Prince, just like a lot of these people. When they're done with you, they murder Tupac, Biggie. You know, when they can't control you and they see that you're not willing to bow to them and bend the knee to them and give them control over you, they take you out. That's what they did. Tupac had too much influence. They took him out. He was going to leave death row. Suge Knight took him out. Everybody knows that. This is common knowledge. We're not stupid. You know, it's kind of like if you see a couple together and the guy, you look at the guy and he's rough and ragged and craggly. He's always drinking or doing drugs. And the woman always has a black eye or a busted lip or a bruised face. And she's always saying, oh, I fell down. Oh, I bumped into a door. Oh, I tripped and fell. Oh, the kids threw a toy at me. We all know what's going on. Nobody's stupid. And they're trying to convince us this is not what's going on. Oh, yeah, we're not going to believe this. So, Michael, actually, and I did this in-depth research last night. He built Neverland Ranch to give the kids a safe space from Hollywood. And if you notice who Michael mainly brought into his inner circle was Macaulay Culkin, Corey Haim, Corey Feldman, child actors. A lot of the child actors and a lot of the child musicians, Aaron Carter. And the reason he did this, it's coming out now because the truth takes a while to come out. Lies are always the first thing thrown out there, and most people believe the lies for a while, and then you start looking at the big picture. Then the truth generally comes out last. The truth never comes first. We know that. We know you're never going to hear the truth as an initial reaction from almost anyone. A lie is the initial response, and then you got to work your way through it to get to the truth. So Michael Jackson built Neverland Ranch to give these young people, these children in Hollywood and the music industry, a safe space and try to protect them from being exploited, molested, trafficked. And Macaulay Culkin actually gave an interview where he said Michael Jackson kept him off the plane and kept him from going to that tiny island. You know the island. Everyone knows that island. Michael Jackson actually protected Macaulay Culkin from going to that island. Aaron Carter gave an interview, which he passed away. Aaron Carter gave an interview that said Michael never did anything to him, and Aaron Carter's parents were actually trying to coach him into saying that Michael did something so they could sue him and get money. And Aaron Carter refused. He said, I'm not doing this. What are we doing here? I'm not going to lie and say that this man did something he didn't do. Macaulay Culkin said Michael never did anything. Corey Haim said Michael never did anything. He was one of the few people in Hollywood who didn't molest Corey Haim. Corey Haim went to the Santa Barbara Police Department and gave a list of names in Hollywood that had molested him. And all they cared about was, well, did Michael do it? And he said, no, never. And it turns out that a lot of people are actually saying out, it's coming out now, that Michael Jackson was actually protecting these children. And we're going to get into what happened for him protecting children, as does most people who protect children. And we can go through this. So in Hollywood and the music industry, and in America in general, if you have any type of influence or financial status or fame of any type, and you advocate to protect children, you usually wind up dead. And this has gone on from Congresswoman Georgia Senator Nancy Schaefer, who was advocating to protect children. She was murdered. Kobe Bryant was writing children's books after he retired from the NBA and was advocating towards children. Died in a helicopter plane crash. Paul Walker was doing a documentary on child sex trafficking at the time of his death. Michael Jackson was trying to protect children from Hollywood and the music industry. He ended up dead. And we can go on and on and on about people who wind up dead trying to protect children. So Michael actually owned his music, and when he merged with Sony Records, his ATP record label, which retained the rights to all of his music, that's why Sony wanted a piece of it. That's why they merged, where Sony wanted a cut of Michael's action, because Michael was making too much money and getting too big. He merged with Sony, and he was half owner of Sony Records at one time with Tommy Mottola, who was the CEO of Sony at the time. And Michael decided he was going to leave Sony Records, and he was in the process of doing a box set, which he already had the music recorded and ready to go. He could just give them whatever they wanted. And he was going to be a free agent in the music world, and he was going to own his own music, which was generating billions of dollars at that time. And he was going to be a free man to do whatever he wanted, make whatever he wanted, and say whatever he wanted. And it was about that time that all of the allegations of Michael abusing children, being a child molester, all of those accusations came out about that time. And I'm going to tell you, what these people do in Hollywood, the music industry, the government, projection. This is classic projection. What they're doing, they project onto other people to destroy their reputations. They've called Mariah Carey crazy so many times. Dave Chappelle they called crazy. Why? Because Dave Chappelle didn't want to have anything to do with their contracts. He didn't want to do it. Prince was murdered because he came out with Slave on the side of his face as a music award show because they wouldn't give him the rights to his music. He was trying to buy the rights to his music, his catalog as they call it. And they wouldn't give it to him. And he was fighting them tooth and nail, and he was standing up against them. Ended up dead. Now, Prince did end up getting the rights to his music, I believe. In 2014, Prince got control of all of his masters in his catalog. 2 years later, he was dead, 2016. And look at the timing of that. So he fought them for years to own his own music that he created. And they finally said, here, we'll give you your music. 2 years later, they killed him. Isn't that ironic? So we covered that. And we took out Michael Jackson because he was protecting child stars from the evil in the entertainment industry. He built Neverland. P. Diddy, there's another one. We know what was going on and for how long. And that tells you the depth of this evil and how many people are involved in this evil. When this can go on with P. Diddy for 20 years, 20 plus years he's been doing this. He killed Biggie Smalls, took him out, made a song about it, mocking him. I'll be missing you. Everybody knows the song. He killed the man, had him taken out, paid a hit, and then made a song to get rich off of him. I mean, these people are evil on a level I've never even imagined. And here's another thing. When I was doing my research, I looked into R. Kelly because I thought to myself of P. Diddy, of all these molesters and pedophiles in Hollywood and the music industry and the government. How is it that R. Kelly was convicted and given 30 years? He was given 20 in Chicago, 30 in New York, and they run concurrent, which means that the 20 in Chicago will run at the same time as the 30 in New York. So sometimes you can have what's called consecutive sentences, which means he would serve the 30 in New York first. Once that 30 was done, the 20 from Chicago would then start, and it would be a combined 50 years. That's a consecutive term. Concurrent means they run together, which means the 20 goes into the 30, and it's just a 30-year term. The 20 is absorbed into it. So how did R. Kelly get convicted and get 30 years while all this stuff is running rampant all throughout the industry? And I believe, you see, R. Kelly married Aaliyah when she was 15 years old. And I believe R. Kelly genuinely loved Aaliyah. I think he genuinely, they had a bond, a connection. How sick it may be, the fact he's in his 20s and she's 15, that's sick. Don't get me wrong. That is illegal. It's sick. It's pedophilia. But when they took out Aaliyah and murdered her in a plane crash, that's a common modus operandi: helicopter crash for Kobe, plane crash for Aaliyah. How many people have the Clintons taken out in plane crashes? I can't even count. We all know this is going on. I believe that R. Kelly was going to speak out. I believe that R. Kelly was going to expose the evil and the corruption and the fact that they were killing people to silence them and sacrificing people. I believe he was going to tell, and they had him convicted. That's honestly what I believe. Look at Britney Spears. They called her crazy, took all of her money, put her in a conservatorship to where her parents owned her. And you see, you're probably wondering, well, how can they do this to all these people? You got to understand, these people are psychopaths who think they genuinely own human beings. They are slave masters in their minds. In their minds, whether it's entertainment, Hollywood, music industry, Congress, president, FBI, intelligence agencies, they all have the same basic foundation of thought of humanity. They own human beings. They own your body, they own your mind, they own your artistic abilities. If you can sing, they own you, and they're going to exploit you for money. And you either agree to those terms and conditions, or they'll destroy you. They'll wipe you out. And, they're so evil. And I thought about this. I've been hearing a lot about Nickelback here lately. And I actually put them on my YouTube music, and I thought, everyone liked Nickelback. They had so many good songs. So many good songs, just an all-American rock band. They sang about, decent stuff. It wasn't a lot of filth and trash and nastiness. And I thought, what happened to Nickelback? And then it was like this public campaign, and this is what I believe. This is not documented. This is not fact. This is what I believe. I believe that they created Nickelback, made them the biggest band in the world, because in the early 2000s, Nickelback was the biggest musical act on planet Earth at that time. And I think they intentionally, just to see if they could, destroyed their credibility and their following with a propaganda scheme. just to see how much control they had over the minds of the American people. Because it's almost like overnight, everyone just started saying, yeah, Nickelback sucks. I hate Nickelback. Yeah, Nickelback's horrible. And it was just this media blitz of how everyone hated Nickelback. For what? What did Nickelback do? They made good music. They sang good songs. And I listened to their album the other day on the way home from work. And I was like, how did these guys just get destroyed like this? And it was the music industry. It's that power and control. And I think it's sick. I think it's evil. And you can go back through history. You can research all this for yourself. This is why I do the research. I take my notes and I present the facts to you. And I separate fact from opinion. I tell you when it's not the truth, when it's just my opinion with Nickelback. And the reason I do this is because I want you to be able to think for yourself. I want you to realize what's going on, because we are at a perilous times in our country. We have a collective group of psychopaths, whether it's Hollywood, music, Congress, whatever. These people are literally trying to make slaves out of us. And a lot of us, they already have made slaves, and you don't even realize it. You're just a happy slave. You think because you are happy in your misery that you're okay. Most people are, and I say that, most people are happy, miserable. And they don't even realize they have subjected themselves to submission. They have quit trying. They have given up their will. They have given up their spirit. They have given up their drive. And they have just conformed to a life of misery because they have been beaten down so much psychologically, emotionally, and financially that they have been molded into a slave and they don't even realize it. And I'm not going to be a slave. No, not going to happen. I will fight tooth and nail. I will go down standing, as they say. I'm not going to submit. And that's what happened to Prince, Michael Jackson, Dave Chappelle. They didn't submit. Britney Spears, I believe they broke her. I believe after they called her crazy, took all of her money, put her in a conservatorship to where she couldn't make any decisions for herself. I believe they finally broke her and made her into a slave. And a lot of these people, look at the music industry, look at the entertainment industry. You either submit to their will and allow them to own you, or they destroy you. They destroy your credibility. They destroy your reputation. They destroy your livelihood. Mel Gibson, they've done this to. So many people they've done this to. Jim Caviezel, when he made The Passion with Mel Gibson told him, you realize if you play the part of Jesus in this movie, there's a good chance you're never going to work in this town again. You realize that, right? And Jim Caviezel said, that's fine. I'll accept that challenge. And kudos to him for doing that. So we're at the 23-minute mark. And that's all the research I have on the music industry. And I'd like to encourage everyone to let's bring Nickelback back. Let's bring back Nickelback. Because there's nothing wrong with them. They made good music. They were a good band. And they were intentionally taken out by psychopaths who just wanted to see if they could. Let's see if we can just destroy the biggest rock band in the world with just propaganda. Let's not poison them. Let's not murder them. Let's just use the media and propaganda and see if we can take down the biggest rock band in the world. And guess what? They did. So I intentionally brought Nickelback back to my playlist, and I'm going to begin listening to it again because it was good music. So, but to each their own. Not everybody's a Nickelback fan. Not everybody's a true music fan. Some of you guys like the boom, biddy boom, boom, and the synthesizers and the fake music. I can't do that. So the reason I wanted to discuss being a psychopath is because there was an expose on X by Elizabeth Lane who did a really good breakdown, psychological and a behavioral analysis of Erica Kirk and her detachment from reality, her detachment from human emotions, and her ambition, making her a true psychopath. And as I read it from Elizabeth Lane, go on X, look up Elizabeth Lane, Erica Kirk, or Candace Owens posted it. It's a really good in-depth story on how Erica Kirk is a true psychopath. And I believe that to be the truth. And then if you look at our media, look at Mike Johnson, Fox News, Donald Trump, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel. These people are psychopaths. That is why you can't stomach to watch them. That's why you can't stand to listen to them. It's not that what they're saying upsets you. It's that your brain identifies them as dangerous because they are not human. They are psychopaths. And the reason these people are very dangerous in society is because you have one psychopath, like a Charles Manson, a psychopath, and he can generate a following pretty quick and have people doing his dirty work because he's a psychopath, void of all human emotions, which is a very dangerous person. Which means when you're void of all human emotion, you are capable of anything to anyone. You can slaughter children, you can abuse the elderly, you can harm animals. When you do not have a conscience or a soul and you are just void of any emotions, you are not fit for society. Let me make that perfectly clear. Anyone void of human emotions with no conscience and no soul is not fit to be in normal society. You should be locked in a cage by yourself, isolated away from everyone. You're a threat to yourself. You're a threat to humanity. And what makes these people so dangerous is their ego and their arrogance and their ambition combined with a lack of emotion or a conscience is highly dangerous. It's like gunpowder and shrapnel at the same time. Gunpowder on one hand is dangerous.